There is an endless sea of podcasts about entrepreneurship. Talking about it, but not living it. We live it every day. This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle, talking about real estate investing, but also encompassing general subjects in regards to owning small to medium-sized businesses. And of course, all the struggles that business owners must overcome to be successful. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. And this is Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle.
Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your hosts, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle. Today we have a special guest with us, owner and CEO of Senna House Buyers, Mr. Matt Trenchard. Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
Hey, guys. Nice to see you.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so just a little bio on Matt. Matt earned an accounting degree from the University of Houston downtown. Right out of school, he went to work at KPMG as a public auditor. He quickly found that his career path did not align with the vision he had for his life. Shortly thereafter, Matt realized his true passion was working with people and found an interest in real estate. Following his position at KPMG, Matt went on and became the CFO of one of the top property management companies here in Houston, where he oversaw their accounting team and their finances. While Matt learned quickly how to analyze the numbers behind real estate investment, he wasn't tapped into his passion for working with people. Matt joined Senna House Buyers in a sales role and found immediate success because of his ability to connect with other people. He has a unique ability to think outside the box, to find creative solutions to any type of situation. Over the course of the next couple of years, Matt continued to take on more responsibility and apply his unique skills to help grow Senna House Buyers. Matt enjoys spending time with his wife, Shanna, and son, Aiden. He loves being outdoors, is an avid runner, triathlete, and plays lacrosse for the Houston Heights Lacrosse Club. Awesome. I'm so glad that you're with us today. So I actually met Matt for the first time at a real estate panel that we were on together. Super smart and intelligent, well-known in the industry. So looking forward to our listeners to get to know you a little bit more. If you want to go ahead and kind of get into your background, how you got started in real estate.
Yeah. So thank you guys again for having me on. I'm excited to be here. So you broke it down a little bit. I'll go into some more detail. So I took the extended path to graduate from college. I got the doctorate degree without getting a doctorate degree. And so when I was finishing school, I knew I wanted to get into business, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So this was right around the time of the financial crisis. All my friends with finance degrees didn't have jobs. All my friends with accounting degrees did have jobs. So I'm like, well, I guess let's just do accounting then.
Right.
I absolutely hated it. I hated it in school. I hated it when I was working at the accounting firm. But I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Right. And so I just kind of went through it. So I'm at the accounting firm. And I don't know if anybody listening ever worked for a Big Four or Big Five accounting firm, but it is not what I would call fun or fulfilling. And so within about 4 or 5 months, I was quickly researching and trying to find my next step. Like, how do I just get out of here? And so I'd always been interested in real estate. And through the triathlon community, I had a friend who had a property management company. It was Pete Newbig, who is partners with Steve. I know you guys know them.
Yeah.
And the first time I met Pete, this is a funny story. First time I met Pete, we went on a bike ride and we had to meet at his house and wait for his real estate agent so he could sign docs to buy a rental property. And I was like, this guy is so cool. This is the coolest thing ever. And I spent the entire bike ride pestering him with real estate questions. Fast forward years later, he comes to me and he's like, hey, our property management company is growing pretty quickly. I'm not an accountant. I don't want to be an accountant. We need help with our finances. You hate your life. Come work for me. I can pay you like half of what you're making. And I was like, done. Just get me out of here.
That is so awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
I had no clue you worked for them. Yeah.
I did. So I left, and I was still doing accounting, which wasn't my favorite thing, but I was seeing, the cool thing about it was everybody's owner statements and their profit and loss statements. I was putting all of this together. So I was seeing all the guys who had portfolios that were actually making money and all the guys who had portfolios that weren't making money. And I learned a ton through that.
Wow.
And so I knew I was going to be able, wanted to invest in real estate down the road. And so I'm seeing this, I'm just digesting this information. So for me, it was almost like the pay cut was my payment for the education.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so as I'm doing this, I'm on Bigger Pockets. I'm devouring as much information as possible. And on Bigger Pockets, I ran across a post by Sam Craven, who's my former business partner. Him and his dad had started Senna House Buyers, my company now. And we went to high school together.
Wow.
So I reached out. What are you guys doing? Looks like you're doing some cool stuff. They were flipping and wholesaling. They had just gotten started probably 6 months before that. And I'm like, I don't know how I can help. You tell me, I'll do it. He was like, we don't do bandit signs. I'm like, done. So I'm like, I'll buy them. I'll put them out. I'll do the whole thing. Just tell me what to say to people when the phone rings. And he's like, okay. And so we did that, did a couple of deals, and I just got the itch. And I knew the kind of the investment flipping wholesaling world was really what sang to me. And so I left Empire after a couple of years. I was the first acquisitions guy, the first employee really for Senna House Buyers. And within a year and a half, I became a partner, and now I'm the sole owner. So
wow.
Unique story, because I didn't quote found my company. But over the course of the last 8 years, we went from, at one point we had a team of 14 people. We were doing probably 18, 20 deals a month. But when we grew that fast, one thing we learned, and I guess this is a lesson for people looking to get into wholesaling or flipping or anything like that, is we grew so fast and we were so focused on deals and revenue that we weren't really making any more money at the end of the day.
Correct.
And I know you guys know, managing more people than less people is a little bit more of a headache, and you'd like to be rewarded for that. And we just weren't. And so when I took over about a year and a half ago, at the time of us recording this, I made some big changes. So I basically looked at it and I was like, I want to approach this as if I know nothing, right? Even though I have the experience that I do, my approach going forward is going to be, what would you do if you didn't know or have any experience? So I tried to get rid of all the biases and this is just the way we've done it that we were stuck in for so long. And now we're significantly more profitable on significantly less revenue, which I'm A-okay with.
Yeah.
So Matt, I had a question about your story. So I think a lot of people, have trouble making that decision to leave a safe and secure job, probably with benefits and perks, to, either go to a smaller company that, in that case, you really wanted to learn, which I agree 100%. If you want to learn a new industry, go work for somebody in that industry, and you can make a paycheck, and it might be less, but you're going to learn a heck of a lot. And then you even took another probably paycheck cut, or, I don't know, there was probably more risk you going to Senna at the time when they were that small. But tell me your mindset, how you made that, how you got left the safe, and were you married at the time? Was she supportive of it? All this kind of stuff.
So I got to give a lot of kudos to my wife that from the account, even when I went from the accounting firm to the property management company, I was like, hey, I want to quit my job and make like 50% less. We were just dating. We weren't even engaged yet. She was like, what? But kudos to her. She stood by me. She put some parameters in place around that. And we're still married. We ended up getting married, and now we're married today. But I was like, listen, I'm miserable. And I was coming home after she went to bed. I was going to work before she, woke up, and we never saw each other. And I'm like, I'm just not going to live like this. There's plenty of ways to make money. I don't know exactly how to do it yet, but I will figure it out. Yeah. And no matter what it takes, if it means I've got to take this 50% pay cut and I got to go back to the restaurant industry at night, like, I'll do it. I don't care. I'm just not going to live the life that was going to lead me down. No matter if I could have made more money or not make more money, I didn't care. Yeah. And so I think one of the traits that I have that I'm fortunate for, and it can get me in trouble too, is I don't need a lot of the details to be figured out for me to take action.
Yeah.
I'm much more, give me about 10 to 20% of the information and I'll figure the rest out as I go. And that's enough for me to be comfortable taking action. My wife, on the other hand, is completely the opposite. She has to have 100% of the details before she wants to take action. And so that's one of the things that helped me make all of those moves. Let's just go figure it out. I'll work day, sun up to sundown and everything in between, and I'll figure it out. And so having that kind of mindset and that level of risk tolerance is something that really helped me. To me, it was no question. I'm like, I've just got to sell it to the wife.
Yeah.
So I really don't struggle taking risks.
Yeah.
Don't you think she probably balanced you though too at times?
Absolutely.
Like, probably kept you out of trouble. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
She's the brake pedal to my gas pedal, right? And she supported me throughout the whole thing. Like I could not have done it without her. I couldn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably could have. I would have lived a not as comfortable of a life doing it, And then when things started paying off, she's like, "Okay, this was worth it."
Yeah. Well, kudos to her for having faith and supporting you 100%, but also kudos to you for taking action and knowing early on that you didn't want to be miserable, working a job in accounting for the rest of your life. So.
I'll tell you a more personal story on that. So I remember the exact moment I was going to quit the accounting firm. And so I was growing up, my family always went to all my sporting games. Like my dad went to every single one. If we went out of town, he went out of town, and he was at every one of them. And I want to be able to do that for my kids. And at the time I didn't have kids. I wasn't even married yet. And I was like, how do these people have time? Like these people with kids, how do they have time to spend time with their kids? Like we're here all the freaking time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, maybe once you make partner, which is like 15 years down the road, you have more control of your time. And so I asked my partner, I said, hey man, you got kids. I said, how do they play sports or what are they into? And he was like, yeah, they play sports. I said, well, how do you manage that? And he goes, oh, we have a good system for it. When the soccer schedule comes out, me and my son sit down and he picks the 2 games that he wants me to go to. And I make sure I make it to those. And I'm like, I'm gone. This is it. That was the exact moment. And it was instant. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I was leaving in that moment because that's just, I don't care how much money you make. That's not worth it. To me.
Wow.
I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. I mean, and that's, I'm glad you saw that probably early on and it probably helped. And you made some of those moves before you had a child. That probably also helped.
Yeah. And you weren't afraid to make those moves too.
Yeah. So. That definitely helped. I wonder how many of those risks I would have taken if I was making that decision now when I have, a wife and a kid.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Versus then it's like,
Yeah.
There's nothing to lose, so you're just going to go all in.
Yeah. I'm like, so what? I got to get a crappy apartment. Like, I don't care.
We share a lot in common because Joni and I, we're the same way. We take certain parts in our life. I think it's probably flip-flop more lately, but I was the throttle and she was the brakes. And then we've always taken massive action. And that's like, even when we got into building homes, that's probably the most recent, or in the plumbing company that we started, we knew nothing about it. I mean, I thought I knew how to build homes because we had flipped so many houses, but it's a total different industry. And, but I took massive action and you learn, you make mistakes, you learn from it and you grow. But I think that's key to the success you're having and what you've done. Cause you have to take some calculated risk and then put massive action behind it, or else you're never going to figure it out. If you try to get everything in a line and everything.
Yeah. Not everything's going to be perfect. And I think so many try to really soak themselves in the education piece and try to get it all right, but then do nothing with it,
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And even to this day, I spend tens of thousands of dollars a year on continuing education
Yeah.
and coaching and mentorships and all that. I just did one last week. It was like a 2-day event for wholesaling. 99.8% of the stuff they talked about, I didn't need, but the little 0.1, 0.2%, that one thing that I can take, it cost me $1,000. The one thing I could take away from it, if I can buy one more deal this year from that, I get a 15x return on it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And one idea, all you need is one idea from that.
And it pays for the whole thing.
And I'm the same way. I'll take that one idea and I will just go berserk with action on it. And it's not going to be great. It's going to be clunky and it's going to be ugly, but something's going to come from it. And then I'm going to learn a little piece from making that first mistake. Then I'm going to get better at that, and so on and so forth. So I'm a huge proponent of the same thing you're talking about, Shawn, is you just got to take action. You're not going to have all the answers. I've been doing this for a while. We still get situations where I'm like, I have no idea how to solve this, but let's get to work, right?
Let's figure it out.
Another key thing takeaway I got from you, because this is, especially as you get more successful in real estate, and it's always about, like, and especially getting into some of these groups and some of these masterminds, it's like, let's pound on each other's chests and how many deals we do and all that. But in the end of the day, it's like, okay, you might do 200 or 300 deals, but like, how much are you taking home? Like, what's the bottom? And nobody wants to talk about, their net ever.
They never do.
Yeah.
They never do. I was at a mastermind. I think it was in November, and I was chatting with a guy. He buys houses nationwide. I won't say his name, but you guys have probably. And we were talking, and he's like, man, like, I did 300K last month, but I lost 50 grand. And I'm like, I know the feeling, but everybody hears the 300K in a month and they're like, oh, this guy's making all this money and he's da-da-da-da. And he's really not. Like, running a business of that size costs a lot of money. And we were there, we were chasing deals and revenue, and some months, don't get me wrong, we made huge sums of money, but then there was other months where we were losing huge sums of money. And so it was like, you had to, January, you make 50 grand in a month net, and then the next month you lose 60. Well, now you've got to make, 150 the next month just to make up for it. Right. And it's just that yo-yo I was ready to get off that ride. I was ready to get off that ride. So
was it like an ego thing for you, or did you not, it didn't matter? Like, how did you?
I think both. There was definitely ego to it for sure. It's when people are asking what you're doing and you're telling them the numbers and everybody's like mind blown by it, that, that does stroke the ego a little bit. But I think it was more, I think we focused on the wrong things, and the systems and the processes that we had really weren't dialed in the way we thought they were. And so what we had was, when we were smaller, we had a somewhat systemized but semi-chaotic system, and so when we blew it up, that chaotic piece of it just got bigger. So then you have this huge train on the tracks, and now you have all these people, and in my heart of hearts, in my gut, it was like, we should probably scale back. But we had great people, and it's not their fault, and that's a tough decision to make. For sure. Especially people like me and people like my business partners, we care deeply for our people. They're like family. And so that was, at the time, we weren't ready to make that call. We couldn't do it. It was too hard.
We went through a similar story with the turnkey business. We scaled back, I don't know, was it 2 years ago? I think 2019.
I mean,
and we scaled back a lot. We went from, I think, 162 flips that year and some new construction to, we scaled back to like 90 or something like that.
Why do we need to be the biggest? Why, why do we need to do 200 and 300 homes? It's not worth it.
Because we weren't making, the more deals we did, the less we made, it seemed like. It was like, I'm like, why am I improving the neighborhoods just to talk, so I can say I did 160 deals that year.
And the quality of life. I mean, you talk about stressed out, going home, and to your kids, and they want to play with you, but all you want to do is work, because you
just got so much to do.
So
well, cool.
I'm with you.
So explain to the listeners that don't understand wholesaling. So can you get into that? What a traditional wholesale deal looks like for you, and then And then talk a little bit about how you said you weren't focusing on the right things, and like, what did you guys start focusing on to really get your business dialed in? And
Yeah. So first question, wholesaling. So the way I always explain it, I find somebody who wants to sell their house for 100 grand. I find somebody who wants to buy it for 115, and I make the difference. So there's a lot of intricate moving parts to that. So really, we're looking for a homeowner who is valuing time and ease of transaction over money in some form or fashion, right? So they're willing to sell their property at a discount for the ease and the peace of mind that we give them in the transaction. And then we find an end buyer, another investor who wants to either buy another rental property or a flip or whatever it is they're doing. And we sell that property to them for a fee. And that fee is my revenue on that deal. So last year in 2020, we averaged, I think, 15,900 per deal for the year on our wholesale transaction.
That's great.
Are you taking any of these down, or do you assign all the contracts?
Yeah, we'll take some down. I would say probably 1 out of 10 to 12 that we buy, we'll take down. We used to flip a lot more in the past. Everything, the low end stuff to high end stuff, we got just absolutely crushed on a handful of high end flips, which I got stories for days on those. And so now I'm extremely picky about what I take down.
Okay.
I have to be able to close on it and have it back on the market in 4 weeks or less. If I can't do that, I'm not going to touch it.
Okay.
I don't care what my magic spreadsheet says I could potentially make on it. I'm just going to get rid of it.
Okay.
Because I want to turn them over and over and over.
Yeah.
So right now I'll probably take down maybe 1 out of 10, 1 out of 12. I'm about to start buying more rental property again, so I'll start keeping some of those as well.
Yeah.
But 90% of what we do is assignment wholesale transaction.
Is there a particular price point, that you work at or focus on, or
sub 400 ARV, sub 400K ARV?
Is there a floor that you find does well? Does it matter how cheap?
No. I just bought one that we're taking down for $2,000 like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
It's in Wichita Falls. It's like 5 hours from Houston, but I'm like, we'll make money some form or fashion.
Somebody will buy it out there
for $2,000.
Are you doing all over the state, or mainly just Houston?
Just Houston.
Yeah.
That one, I don't even know how we got that lead. I have to go back and look. It came in, and my sales guy was like, "What do you want to do with this thing?"
Yeah.
I'm like, man, offer him like $1,000 or $2,000, and I hope he says no.
And then drive it.
He said yes. So.
Well, it's definitely not an easy business. I know you put a lot of work into it. So for our listeners listening in, tell us what kind of goes into, all of this and the processes and the procedures that you have in place. And the follow-up system. It's really a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. So the wholesaling business it's a grind for sure. And so we do everything we can to automate that, split the roles up so it can feel less of a grind. So we've got a bunch of different marketing campaigns. We'll kind of break down the system at a high level. A bunch of different marketing campaigns, from text to cold call to the website, PPC and SEO, all that kind of stuff. We have a lead manager kind of pre-qualify them. So we generate a lot of leads, but not a lot of them really makes sense to sell to an investor, right? They're just kind of fishing for an offer, curious how the process works, that kind of thing. So that my lead manager's job is to serve as the gatekeeper to my acquisitions team, so that they're only talking to people who really understand and are okay with selling their house at a discount. If the guy calls in and is like, "Oh, well, you guys reached out to me. I'm just curious what your offer is. My house doesn't need any work." He's never even going to talk to my closers, because I want them only spending their time with high quality leads.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And so my lead manager manages all of that on the front end. And, if we can't get a hold of them, they have follow-up campaigns and schedules. And if somebody says they want an offer on their house to us, we will call you until you tell us to leave you alone or you sell the house. Or look, we understand that. And when we do, we tell them, listen, I know you're getting just crushed by not my company, but everybody else who's getting into this and trying this. If you want to be removed from the list, I assure you, you will never hear from us again. If you do hear from anybody else, it's not us. I can promise you that. So look, I get it. And we speak directly to that when we talk to people. We're very, very transparent with our whole sales process. Everybody knows we're wholesaling the property.
Mm-hmm.
All the sellers know. We're very upfront about that, which is something that does not happen in our business.
Correct.
But that's something that's important to me, is making sure they know exactly what's going on. And we tell them too, I'm like, house doesn't need a lot of work. Like, you should list this thing. Like, you are leaving a lot of money on the table. And they're like, I don't care. I don't want to deal with it. And I'm like, are you sure? Because if you were my brother, I would tell you not to do this. And they're like, no, like, I don't care about the money. I want this to be done. Okay.
Wow.
Are you listing like some of the retail leads? Do you wholesale? Do you flip those to an agent, or what do you do?
So that's one of my kind of Q1, Q2 initiatives. I'm going to hire a couple of real estate agents because we generate a lot of leads that they are going to sell. They do want to sell, and they want to list it. The house is in good shape. They have all the time in the world. They just make a great listing candidate. But I don't have the time to do that right now. And I don't want my acquisitions guys having to worry about that. So I'm going to hire a couple of real estate agents, and I'm going to basically feed them a ton of leads.
Yeah, that's a smart move. I mean, I think that's the same thing with it. I mean, it's so time consuming, and having an agent, you're missing opportunity, so filtering those to these agents, I think that's a smart move.
And we have referred it out to other agents in the past, but I'm just never happy with the level of attention that those leads get. So when I've referred those out to other agents that weren't kind of in our company, I was never happy with how they would work them. I'd get calls from the sellers after teeing up the agent saying, hey, is that guy ever going to call me, or is that gal ever going to call me? And I'm like, they haven't called you? It's been 3 days since I've sent them the lead. Like, no, I haven't heard anything. And I'm like, nope, you're done.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you spend, thousands for these leads, and then you're handing it off to them, and they're not doing anything with this. So
what kind of software? What kind of software are you using? Just curious. Like your CRM.
Let's see. Yeah, my CRM, I'm using Podio. It's a custom built Podio. It's not one of the off the shelf ones that I know are out there, like a Beast Mode or something like that. I use Podio. I use CallRail and a Smartphone, which is a Podio product, which I got to tell you, Smartphone is a fantastic product for my business. It's like a CallRail, but I have it, since it's a Podio product, it ties in very seamlessly. So I use it for my sales management. So every Friday I have a one-on-one with all my team members, and I pull a call from every one of my salespeople randomly from the system, and we live listen to it and coach them and go through all of that. And there's a checklist that they each have for their call. Did you cover this? 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 And we go through it. And that has helped provide tremendous consistency to our business.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my favorite software. So let's see, Podio, Smartphone, CallRail. I use Constant Contact for my email campaigns. I use Batch for my skip tracing and my texting. I think that's it.
Cool.
Yeah. And I know you you love to balance, because that's what got you out of the accounting life and business. So like, what does your traditional day look like? Or do you regulate certain times to spend time with your, is there does your business run, without you being there? Or like, kind of give us some feedback.
It does and it doesn't. So my operations manager, Lucy, she's been with me for 4 years, it'll be 5 in October. She's fantastic. So she does a great job when I'm not around, kind of herding the cats, so to speak. But it doesn't run without me. I wouldn't be comfortable leaving for, 2 months or a month at a time and not checking in or having, emails or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be a good test. I should try that.
You should try it.
You definitely should try it. We tried it. We stress tested the business, what is it, last year and
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So definitely try it.
Yeah.
Because if anything, it'll just tell me what I need to put in place so that I can do that.
Yeah.
And,
I like
and
that.
usually nothing will go that wrong in a month, but
Right.
just preparation, for that month, you'll fix a lot of the things that you were procrastinating on,
Oh
delegating,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
So,
I like that. So my typical day, I'm one of those, I cannot do the same thing over and over. And so
hmm,
one of my mentors is always on my case about building out my perfect week. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like I might wake up one day and want to work 16 hours. And then the next day I wake up and I want to play video games for 3 hours a day. I don't know. Right. So I'm not one I don't have like the same routine every morning or anything like that. But typically I get to the office between 8 and 9. Um, Usually my mornings are centered around the team. So I'm checking in with them. I'm solving any problems that they have. I'm touching base. If we got to run through leads or double check comps for a sales guy or something like that. And then the afternoons are kind of my time. And that's where I'm focusing on the higher level things in the business or setting up meetings. Like it would be, doing a podcast like this or something like that.
hmm.
Um, or getting a workout in, just kind of trying to get the things done so that when I do get the kid from school in the afternoon, I really try to keep that like 5:30 to 8 o'clock, just no work, no business, no none of that. That's all, family
Family
time.
time. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Are there any?
I'm not great at it. I
Yeah,
still get in
I mean,
trouble for
either am
checking the phone
I.
when it dings, but I really do try to keep that block untouched
Right.
every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are there? I mean, I have like habits that I do every day that kind of help me succeed in life and in business in general. Are there any habits that you have that kind of help you through that?
So, I've actually gotten this question before, and I'm bad about, I don't have this detailed morning routine and night routine where I, meditate for 10 minutes and write my goals out. And I don't do that. I'm bad about that. But one thing I do all the time is I have a journal. It's called what is it? The Full Focus Planner.
I love that. I have that too.
Yeah.
We do
We all
too.
do.
I've been using that for probably a year and a half
Mm-hmm.
now. I absolutely love it because it's organized. So it tells me what to fill out so I don't have to think about it. And having that daily top three, that is one thing I do every day. And so I have to get those three things done. If I get nothing else done throughout the day, I have to get those three things done. And so it makes me really think about what goes in that box, right? It can't be just take the trash out today. Like it doesn't move the needle,
Right.
And so that is the one I would say habit that I do have that has really contributed to my success.
That's cool.
That's a great habit. Awesome.
Yeah.
And if you had any advice for people that just starting out, what would you what advice would you give them?
Whew, man.
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, at wholesaling, like we've been in the real estate industry for 20 years. So like there was a time like, I mean, you can make a lot of mistakes in real estate and still be profitable.
And not only that, I mean, there's timing into it. So, when these homeowners are ready to sell, so it could be, I mean, we used to knock on hundreds of doors, a week to get that one deal. And I think so many people that, get into real estate, they think that they're going to get rich off one deal or, it's harder than they think and they give up, right?
Yeah, it is hard. And I would say this. Temper your expectations. It's going to take 10 times as long as you think it's going to take, and you're going to make a tenth of what you think you are out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I'm big on kind of designing your life, right? So, for instance, I love like Gary V. Like I love Gary V, but I hate some of the stuff he says. Like the whole work 18, 19, 20 hours, like that is not the life I want to live.
Right.
Now, if that's the life you want to live, cool. Like, but I am unabashed about what I want out of life. And so I think anybody looking to get started is really double check your gut on why you're wanting to do that. Because that's going to help when things get tough.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's my thing. Like I'm not going to go back to working 100-hour weeks. I'm just not. It can wait. And if that means that I'm not going to buy a Lambo this year, then so be it. I don't care because that doesn't do it for me.
Right.
Being able to have control of my time is what does it for me. So I would get super, super clear on why you're doing what you're doing and why you want to get into real estate or wholesaling or whatever niche it is. So even once you decide on your niche or your focus, even in there, you can start focusing on things. So get very good at one marketing metric, right? And then add some more marketing, and then get very good at that one, and then add to that. I like to think I can multitask, but I also believe multitasking is a myth, right? You really can only focus your attention on one thing at a time. And so being able to prioritize and execute in an orderly fashion is something that I struggle with, but the more I work on that and I get better at that, then the better my business and my life is.
Yeah, those are great those are great takeaways, by the way, because the last couple episodes we've been talking a lot about, creating your vision and what your vision is for your life. And so that's the great takeaway right there, is before you do anything, how do you want to live your life? And then number two, that's yes, right. I totally agree. Like, get laser focus on something. Don't try to do everything, because you're not going to do everything also perfect. And,
just keep it simple, really. Is what it comes in. Yeah. So
and you got to allow for mistakes, and if you're doing too many things at one time, you're going to make mistakes in all of them, but you're not going to have the time to slow down and learn from them.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
And any books you would recommend to our listeners that you've been reading, or anything you read recently?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to read a book a month right now. So
cool.
One I'm reading one called Street Smarts right now. I think Norm Brodsky is the guy. He built $100 million business and then went bankrupt, and then built another super successful business. So it's kind of like lessons he learned throughout that whole journey. It's been very good. So I'm early into that one. Two of my favorites, which are actually two of my core values at my company, are Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Love that one.
Navy SEAL. It's a great book. It's where I get prioritize and execute from. And then Radical Candor is another one of my favorites, which is also core values. That has a lot more to deal with communicating with people and understanding that you can still be direct with people without being an asshole,
Right.
And
That's
that's
awesome.
a big favorite of mine. So I usually recommend Extreme Ownership and Radical Candor, but I just happen to be reading Street Smarts right now, and it's been very good.
Cool.
So I'll give you those three.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We appreciate you being on the podcast today. How can our listeners get a hold of you if they want to buy a property from you? How do they reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can get me at info@sennahousebuyers.com would be a great way to just cold reach out via email. You can follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Matt Trenchard. It's Matt with one T. So it gets kind of, you might miss it. Understand that.
I think I almost made that mistake.
I've made that mistake a couple times already.
Everybody does. I'm used to it. Used to it. So it's a funny story on that. So my dad is a therapist.
Okay.
And I asked, why did you only... Because it's Matt, my legal name is Matthew, but it's also with one T. And I'm like, why did you do the whole like one T thing?
Yeah.
He's like, well, my dad's a super introvert. Okay. And he was like, well, I wanted it to be a conversation starter in case you were an introvert like me. It would force you to have a conversation.
Wow.
And then I end up being this like extreme extrovert, like people person galore. And I'm like, well,
I can see how you change professions from accounting to real estate. That's totally not you, behind a desk, that you're a total people, person. I saw that in you since day one. So that is definitely your unique ability.
I'm a people junkie, man.
You can connect with people really well. That's awesome.
My wife and I always talk about networking events because she's an introvert. And if she goes and networks for a couple hours, she's just exhausted. Comes home, immediately goes to bed, like doesn't even shower. She's just beat. And I'll go network for like 3 or 4 hours, and I'll come home, and it'll take me about an hour to 2 hours to just like slow down.
Unwind.
I'm just jazzed up. So,
and that's Shawn and I too. Shawn's the
I'm
introvert,
done after a
like
couple years,
exhausted. I'm ready to go. Let's go for another round.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, we appreciate you being here. I know this week was tough for everybody in Houston, and so I know you yourself, had issues. So we appreciate you making the time for this. And if there's anything we can do ever for you, or we'll get our lead manager on your guys' wholesale list too. So if there's if we can see some that interest, we'll be happy to buy it.
Yeah.
But Go ahead.
I don't know if this is going to be in the show or not, but I actually just went down to Angleton with Corey Boyer yesterday. And he mentioned you guys. I'm like, I'm going to be on the podcast tomorrow.
Yeah. So we had lunch with them.
Land.
Yeah. Did you? Are you doing land stuff as well?
Not much. So I'm selling him a piece of property in Angleton that just came through our lead flow. But now he's like got me convinced to look more into it. Yeah.
So I mean, we're looking at, that's why we had lunch with him just to partner on some stuff. But
cool.
Land. But we appreciate it.
Are y'all looking for like raw land or developed land?
I like more developed land, but I mean, we'll look at both.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you
we should definitely probably get together sometime and kind of see how we can
let's do that and
collaborate and do some things together for sure.
Yeah, let's do that once all this craziness settles down.
Yes.
Awesome.
Sure.
And we didn't end this show right.
So you got to piece it all together anyway.
I need an outro. So if Shawn or Joni, if you
want to get it? Yeah,
give him a thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, go for it. And then
do you want to count us down, or you want me to go?
3, 2. Hold on, I'm sorry. I got to make sure I get this note. 3, 2. Outro, Joni, and action.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for joining us today. I really appreciate, all the value you added for our listeners here today. So, anyhow, thanks again. And
thank you guys. This was fun.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolfsDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.